Terrible intro music. Cue now and cut. So, really quick update. Reason why we're not doing intro music before I even get to the intro. YouTube is cracking down on demonetization for people who are using music that's not theirs. You can see my air quotes. Because technically, you can go to SoundCloud and still utilize music from there. I just wanted to avoid getting demonetized later in the future for some silly mess. But welcome to Nerd Stay Out. I'm your host, Jaquack, and my co-host,
Hollywood.
And today we're going to talk about Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, the Teenage Witch.
Something wicked this way comes.
Yeah. Where's that reference to?
Macbeth?
Oh. Dude,
Shakespeare. Some Shakespeare or something. I don't know. Google's your friend, bruh.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid web browsers right now because notifications. Really quickly, let's go ahead and jump right into it. It's very different from the show in my opinion. If you haven't watched the show, go ahead and watch the show or read the comic. It's completely up to you which one you want to do first, but I'd highly recommend the show. Definitely worth the read for the comic at least. I don't. Is it still ongoing?
What, the comic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When was the last issue printed?
Oh, like 2 weeks ago or something like
Oh. Oh, okay. Cool. So it's continuing. So you can continue to watch and read. Do both. Rating the comic versus show. Show, I really liked. I really enjoyed. I'm going to give it a solid 8.5. 7. Comic, I'm going to give it a solid
Ha, I was right.
7.93.
It's from Macbeth. By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. And it's from the bubbling cauldron scene. I knew it.
I figured it was from the witches. I just couldn't recall what play. When you said Macbeth, it was like instant click. It was from the witch scene. What would you rate the comic?
Considering that I cracked it, the volume, and then I read all the way through 8 in the same day, I give it an 8.5.
I gave it a 7.93.
Potential. So it's got a lot of potential moving forward, depending on where they go with it.
I gave it a 7.93, and hear me out. And I know you're gonna argue that we haven't seen this yet. There's still the air of incestuality looming about.
Yeah, that's kind of hanging there, but as long as they don't bite that forbidden fruit. Even he said himself that that was too much for him. So,
what would you rate the show?
I freaking love the show, bro.
What would you rate it though?
I mean, nothing's perfect. I probably give the show. I give it a 9.
9. Fair enough.
Nothing's perfect, but I super enjoy it, and I'm definitely waiting for the next season.
Yeah, I feel like my 8.57 is a little harsh. Nothing against it. It could totally get a 10 by the end of the show.
I mean, I think I probably have a generous grading scale, so it is what it is.
I mean, there's some things that I wish they would go into detail about that the comic book has. But again, it's you pick and choose your battles.
Well, I mean, it's like we discussed earlier. I went into reading the comic book thinking it's going to be like 3 volumes in, but it's only 8 issues in. And essentially, by the end of the first season, they'd only had the first 5 in. So, spoiler alert starts now. So
be warned. And I've been really bad about doing that in the past couple of ones. So, spoiler alert, mother
I mean,
bleeps.
just put spoiler in the title. Shit.
I mean, I do, but, you know, when you put review in the title, I assume someone out there is not going to think they probably have spoilers. And you're going to listen to this, and you're going to realize they're spoilers.
Well, if I don't want spoilers, people do these things called spoiler-free reviews, and they label it as a spoiler-free review. You're in the movie group. I'm sure you see people post it all the time. It's about my spoiler-free review.
Yeah.
So, yeah. If I don't say spoiler-free review, expect that I'm going to talk about some shit that happened in the movie. Or the show. Or the book. Or the ballet, the play, the Broadway musical, whatever.
But back to what we were talking about. With the show, you said it was only 5 issues in when they had finished up season 1.
Yeah, because I remember, like, I want to say it was, like, book 6 I went to open, and it was like, oh, just in time for season 2 of the Netflix series. I was like, all right, so y'all only had, like, the first 5 issues before this went into production? Like, or did y'all pitch the idea and somebody was like, oh, hell yeah, this is going to be boss? I mean, but then again, the way comics come out, and it depends on, like, the artist and the writer. Some comics take longer in between the release issues than others.
Yeah.
So, you know, a 6 comic run could be prime example. I think we're finally up to the last issue of Doomsday Clock. How long have I been pulling Doomsday Clock? It's been like over a year.
You've been pulling Doomsday Clock since they rebooted DC.
Well, it's been over a year for Doomsday Clock. So, like, I think Doomsday Clock started not too long after Metal ended. I want to say it was like a month or 2 after Metal ended.
Did it? I felt like it started sooner.
No, it started after Metal ended.
I don't know why I thought it started sooner. I always thought it started around, like, issue number 10 or 11. No, it would have been, like, issue 20 of, like, all the major DC runs. Because that's where Bruce and Barry found the button. But then again, it could have been
but it started
spoilers.
it was way after that. Bruce and Barry and the button was just like hey, there's something going on with the Watchmen.
Things are happening.
Right. Hey, be on the lookout. We might be touching this subject. That's pretty much what that was.
Fair enough.
Yeah, because especially like when it came out, the preview for the show, I was like, oh man, this is freaking cool. This is awesome. I was like, well, this is like way darker than Sabrina I remember. And I don't know where they got this from. And
I was with it.
Will Morin was like, yeah, man, that's based off of the comic book series. I was like, comic book series? He's like, yeah, it's the same. It's by the same name. It's called Chilling versus Sabrina. It's way darker than the stuff that they've normally been doing. It's part of the Archie horror line. And I'm like, oh, okay. That sounds interesting. But then I found out, too, though, like, they did other stuff within it, though. So there's, like, crossover stuff. Yeah. It's the Archie verse or whatever what you would want to call it. There's crossovers in it. So I assume they did what they did with Sabrina, and then they took a break and they did some other crossover stuff. It's like issue 8, the last issue. Mm-hmm. When they went to Pop's Diner and they ran into Jughead. Yeah. And then she had that weird vision of Jughead and his dog. Yeah. That's based off Jughead the Hunger. Yep. So.
I noticed.
Yeah, I don't know if that was supposed to be like a premonition or her remembering.
It was a premonition. I have to finish that storyline, but I did start it, so.
You started Jughead the Hunger?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to start it, but I didn't. So, you know. November 22nd, 2017. That is when the first Doomsday Clock released.
Almost a year.
We are almost a year. 2017.
Oh, shoot. You're right. My bad.
We are almost 2 years in on a 12 comic run.
It is what it is, bro. I don't
And
know
I
what to tell you.
lied. Because I thought we were on issue 11, but we're on issue 10. So there's still 2 more issues to go. So we've may very well surpass the 2-year mark for this run.
I mean, it is what it is. It'll stretch out. Um, but part of me, when you told me that they had started it, while it was in mid writing, mind you, I hadn't gotten that far into it yet. I think I was at like issue number 4. And in my mind, when you told me that, I was like, "Oh, maybe that's why it's so like different from the show."
Well, I mean, it comes out the gate like super, super different anyway, though.
Yeah. Very different. Because well, since we're talking about that, I made a list of talking points. Like it came off the gate and it automatically gave you like a backstory of Sabrina's father and her mother and all this other stuff going on. What did you think of the backstory with Edward and what was her mom's name?
Sabrina's mom.
Fair enough.
I don't remember.
What did you think of their backstory? Like what happened between them two?
For what they are going for, it makes sense. I mean, yeah. Like, the whole thing about Sabrina, like on the original one, it was like the diehardness of her parents' love and blah 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 blah. They overcame this, that, and the third, right?
Yeah.
But like the idea that they were just like pretty much just straight up
Good
witches, and like he was just using her for as a means for his ends and stuff like that. It just made sense for the universe that they built. And that's just because, like, going into it after having already seen the show, I was going into it already expecting stuff to be super dark.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I was expecting dark, but god damn.
oh no, I was expecting that joint to be super dark, and like the out the gate. Oh yeah, nah, we're just using you. We're gonna steal the baby. And but I mean, then there was the like the gray hair or silver line of him actually caring for her somewhat, because he didn't just flat out kill her. He could have just flat out killed her.
Yeah.
But he didn't flat out kill her. He just dropped her in the psych ward and gave her a lobotomy. I don't know. You decide which one is better. Do you think maybe he's more messed up for leaving her alive with a lobotomy? Maybe he should have just went ahead and killed her. I don't know.
Well, it leaves doors open. Because like we saw later on where Madam Satan comes back and she's like, oh, you're his lover. Oh, I'm going to fix you. And now you're fixed. But no one's going to believe a word you're saying because you've been in here for so long and they just think you're crazy.
You're in the nut house, bro.
So, I mean, you got better after waiting for so long, but now you're at the point of, is it worth it because you can't get out, or do you just straighten up and act right and then get out?
I don't know. I mean, you hadn't talked in like 70,000 years. So, well, not 70,000, but what was it like?
It was
essentially like 16 years. So,
it would have been like 16 or 15 years.
Depending. I mean, I guess maybe if you get yourself together, but like she's hysterical. So all she's yelling out is witches. Is witches, witches, they're witches, and they want to take my baby. And I gotta get my baby. But the witches that had my babies for 16 years, and my baby's a witch. So.
Yeah.
I know they can't do this because of copyrights and whatever, because the CW already has all the Archie people for Riverdale.
I would love for them to do a crossover.
Yeah, and there's a huge Archie influence in it. But like I said, I guess that's because, you know what I'm saying, in the comic books it's all one big thing. But I didn't realize like Sabrina and Archie was so closely connected like that. Like,
I didn't realize it until I started reading into the comics, or not specifically this comic, but like or it was like the random Archie comics that I was picking up like while like when the first season of Archie dropped. I started reading Archie comics here and there, and then I realized, oh, Riverdale's here, Greendale's right here. Holy crap, he's related to Sabrina.
He's related to Sabrina?
Not related, but same universe.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I already knew they were like right there, right by each other. But when I say like I had no idea like it was gonna be so interconnected, like the two witches who raised Madam Satan were Betty and Veronica.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I mean. But like, I didn't expect it was gonna be like that tight knit like that. Like the kids, all the kids from Riverdale show up to look for was it Harvey Kinkle?
Yeah, Harvey.
So they all show up to look for Harvey, and Jughead. Jughead's a dick.
What do you mean?
In the the Sabrina series, Jughead's like a dick, bro. Like everything maybe I know maybe he's not a dick, but like everything he says seems standoffish to me. Like when they first showed up to look for Harvey, he said something sideways. It's basically like, "Hey man, I'm just here to get this over with. Like, leave me alone." And then when they showed up at Pop's diner, he said something sideways to her, like, "Yo, what y'all doing in our neck of woods?" type deal.
I mean, I get what you're saying, and I don't think the second comment was like that. But like, if you read like main standalone Archie, Jughead's kind of like he reminds me of Shaggy from Scooby Doo almost.
Well, I mean, yeah, and the original Archies, he reminded me of that, but like, him don't seem that way in this.
I mean, like you said, different writer,
yeah.
different portrayals. But
I guess that's supposed to be Southside Serpent's Archie.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean,
Jughead Jones.
Because he's always had the S. So is that what the S has always stood for on his shirt?
I don't know.
Yeah, it was like I thought that was kind of neat. They kept referring back to Riverdale and Archie, and then they kept it connected, and they sort of made the little coven. You know, Sabrina's little coven was Veronica and Betty or whatever, and like that also shows you, like I said, how far left they go, because you didn't have the Grand Priest or whatever that you had in the TV show. You had the lady, whatever she was. What was her name? I forgot what they called her.
I don't remember.
But they had like the female version of the Grand Priest. Like she was over the whole thing when Sabrina went into the woods to give herself over for her
because like
christening
there were
and
no
all
men.
that.
Yeah, but like then you go back to like the trial where they had like the Dark Pope or whatever.
Well, yeah, but that was a higher level than.
Oh yeah. But like, all right. So I feel like we went really sideways from where I was going. But so her father seemed more manipulative, more malevolent, with like everything he was doing. And you mentioned Madam Satan. And like they gave her a backstory, and
She also wasn't Madam Satan on the show.
no, she wasn't. She was
Lilith.
Yeah, which I mean, some people. So some people say Lilith was his first wife. Some people say it was Eve. For the comic versus show, comic she was
Eve was
Madam Satan, huh?
Eve was never a wife of Satan.
Well,
Lilith was, but she was Adam's first wife.
Yes. But you have like the correlation for that character. For the namesake, I'm just gonna call her Lilith because Lilith is easier to say than Madam Satan every single time. But
You could say MS, but then people might think you're talking about multiple sclerosis.
yeah, we don't want to.
Multiple blah, 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 blah. No offense to anybody who has MS.
But like, notice how she comes in and she's not like the permanent teacher. She doesn't take the teacher's face like she does, or body like she does in the show. She goes off to this camp and steals this chick's face, like straight freaking Texas Chainsaw Massacre this chick's face.
Well, I mean, I assumed in the show she just kind of like ate her and stole her soul, like her embodiment or whatever.
Yeah, but so show versus comic. Again, like the show watered that down a little.
I mean, yeah, they didn't show her rip somebody's face off, but like she killed her on the side of the road some kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying. As dark as we make it seem,
They also didn't show her getting picked up by some trucker rapist murderer guy.
no, they didn't. But for as dark as we make the show seem, it could have been a lot darker.
Oh yeah, well, so one of the things I kept looking for is I kept looking for her friends, and so I assumed they used her friends as substitutes for the coven mates, and so they didn't have Betty and Veronica, so they couldn't use Betty and Veronica,
Right.
so they added her friends. But I think that's really neat though, like as far as a creative difference thing, they added her friends, and then they gave her friends a background and a history related closely to the witches of the town to make it, you know what I'm saying, more incorporated and more sensical as to why they would be a part of this witch thing. Like even though they're not witches themselves, the relation with witches is like in their blood, and it's just like they're drawn to it no matter what.
Right. But then you have like differences where like Rosalind isn't some black chick. Rosalind is or a seer. Rosalind is some stuck up white bitch from. Damn. Here I go cursing again. Some stuck up white heifer.
You didn't said it now.
Well,
You talking the chick in the class that was like competing with her for Harvey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like they're missing Susie. And like even like when they delved into the coven and everything, like they didn't give anyone from the show in the comic. So like they pulled most, no offense, but they pulled most of those characters just like out of their butt.
Yeah, I mean, but they did good with it though.
And
it worked.
Not for nothing, but like they didn't have much to work with. Knowing what I know now, is like they didn't have much to work with, so they made a show pretty much just based off of the idea of, oh, we're gonna take Sabrina and make it darker, make it more witchy and more satanic.
Right.
So, and I mean, and Rosalind wasn't the only one that they changed up. They changed up Ambrose.
Well, yeah. I mean, yes and no.
The design and like characteristics for Ambrose, yes. They gave him.
I think personality-wise, I think the Ambrose on the show is.
I meant like physical.
Physical. I mean, yeah. I mean, they made him black. I mean, but other than that, though, he's still British. He still did some wild stuff. Is the reason why he got to be with them. I don't think it's the exact same things as whatever, because I don't think they really ever went into what he did on the show.
No, they didn't.
They just kept brushing around it like what he did was really, really bad.
Right.
But they just never really spoke of what he did. They kind of told you what he did in the comic book.
Right.
But it wasn't. It didn't seem like not talk about it worthy bad. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but other than that, like the personality, like really smarmy and trying to get Sabrina to open up to herself and all. He still had the same personality. They just changed like his physical outlook. What I think would have been cool though is if they would have kept Salem talking. So they completely did away with Salem talking.
Yeah, I wish they had like given him a voice
And
in the
then
show.
they also didn't. They gave Ambrose a familiar.
In the comic book, but not in the show.
They gave him one later in the show, but it was like somebody else's familiar.
Oh yeah,
But it wasn't the familiar that he had in the comic book. In the comic
right,
book, he has two snakes.
right. Who
But
were prince and princess of what was that, India?
right,
Under
but
the rule of the same guy that built the Taj Mahal.
right,
And
but
if
in
you
the
want
show, isn't
more,
his familiar is like a mouse or something like that, right?
right,
And he did have the iguana, but it was like somebody else's familiar.
yeah. And then like it's there's a lot of changes that they made, but from the show, from the comic book. But again, like you think about it, and they only had 5 issues at the time to work with. That's not a lot of material. You have like mangas that will go like 3 or 4. How do I say this? Volumes, chapters,
Volumes,
volumes.
because the
Like
issue is usually considered a chapter.
right, like they'd go like 3 or 4 volumes ahead of like where the show is. Case in point, Attack on Titan. It was like they want it to be like 2 or 3 volumes ahead of the show before they even
released
started.
it. Yeah, season 2.
Right. So I mean, that just goes to show like they took what they had and just built on it and went a completely different direction from where the comic book was. And not to discredit them, but in my opinion, it's great, and both can very well get a 10 by the end of their run. But you will have 2 separate stories, and
Oh, most definitely. Like already, they ate Harvey Kinkle.
yeah, they ate the.
Talk
Flip
about like was not expecting.
like
I was like, oh, Harvey's the man. He's got rockets in his boots. He's about to jet on these guys. Watch my dust. And then I flip the next page, and Harvey is short a face because they ate his whole face and chest and whatever. I was like, good lord, I was not expecting this. I mean, I knew they were gonna have to do the raise the dead thing at some point, but I didn't think it was gonna be Harvey.
right, because they touched on it in the show, and I was like,
Right, and it was Harvey's brother.
I was,
But he also didn't
expecting-
get eaten either, though. Like his brother got killed in the avalanche by the other witches. So that is how they kind of parallel stuff too. So like they didn't want to kill off Harvey, so they killed his brother. They created a brother to kill off because
Right.
you have no brother in the comic book.
right,
They created a brother to kill off, and witches ate Harvey in the comic book. But instead of having witches eat his brother, you have witches cause an avalanche in the cave, which killed his brother.
right, and I like
So-
how in the comic they really like delved into the whole cannibalism thing, where like in the show they talk about it, but you don't see them like really get into it.
In the show they just kind of mention it. So like in the show, I'm like, they don't really eat. They don't really eat people. Like it just seems like a running joke in the show. You know what I mean? Like like people witches eat people. So it just seems like a running joke. Like the way they do it, because you never like you just said, you never actually see them eat anybody or see them start filleting up a body for food or whatever. But the comic book, they're like hardcore
They
just eating
eat
people. Like
They eat people, eat people.
like breakfast, lunch, dinner, I eats people. Like
Like, and I always thought, okay, well, that's why they live in a morgue, because they eat people. Nah, that is why.
right, because they was like, oh, we got a fresh supply of food. I hope they send that one our way. Like, god damn, bro. What?
Like for real, freaking at the bar fight where people died and crap, they're like, oh, cool, we'll have some fresh meat.
Right, sweet meat.
It's already pre-seasoned, bruh. Pre-soaked in alcohol. So messed up.
And dude became a familiar. I kind of wonder how that works. I mean, I guess you get cursed, or I don't know. The guy that died in the bar fight. That's Madam Satan's familiar now.
Well,
He died and became the crow.
Well, I don't know how he would die and become the crow, But since you mentioned becoming familiars, I mean, we had a whole explanation of how it usually happens in issue number 7.
You get cursed. That's how they was explaining it happens. You're cursed. But so like, did she curse whoever the victor was,
I guess.
or I mean, excuse me, whoever the loser was? Like, you lose.
I guess. I mean, but like,
And also, can I say like Salem's background was lackluster to me.
yeah, like at first, so early off when they introduced Salem,
They make reference to him trying to raise the horsemen.
right?
So I was looking for that. I was like, what? That's gonna be
No. Hold on.
boss.
First off, they make references to him trying to start the Book of Revelations.
Yeah.
So if you know anything about the Book of Revelations, you know that means end times. That means the end of days. That means apocalyptic. So later on, they mentioned the 4 horsemen, and I'm like, all right, cool. We about to get into this. All right. And then they go into freaking the Crucible, and I'm just like, bruh, I read this in high school. I already know what happens. But instead of being fake witches, they were real witches. And crap got real.
Right. So apparently, this is what happens when you go out whoring with witches.
Yeah, so like Salem got turned. Hold on. Samuel got turned into Salem because he couldn't keep his dick out of pussy.
Yeah. So he was smashing a witch, and he knocked her up, and basically told her that he wasn't ready to have kids.
His
And
bro.
she was like, "Oh," she disappeared and then came back, and come to find out, she killed the baby. She had to use the baby's blood, because she had to use his blood for the curse or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, how'd you get my blood?" She was like, "Your blood was in me." So she used the baby to curse him because he didn't want the baby.
So that was some real petty-ish.
I mean, it was super petty. She needed a cape.
It was supernatural petty.
She needed a cape because she was super petty. But she turned him into a witch. I mean, a cat. And they didn't even give him a name. Satan gave him his name.
Yeah. And Satan was like, for now on, you carry on with whatever happened here. Go figure.
So you'll be named Salem so that you'll forever remember the events that happened here. Basically like saying it was his fault.
Yeah. But, like, I mean, and then, like, Nag and Nagina, their backstory is pretty interesting, too. With the whole Taj Mahal tie-in and whatnot. I don't know.
They got set up for the okie doke.
I'm a fan of history sometimes, so, you know, I thought that was interesting. But then, like, in issue, what was that? Issue number 8? Or, I think that was issue 8, where they go into, like, Edward's childhood, where he learns to be a conjurer and summon things. So, like, he gets tasked with,
I want to say that was like issue 6.
Maybe. I think I was typing out of order. But he gets tasked with summoning Lucifer himself. So, I got a question for you. Do you think he was just going about it the wrong way? You're using a demon you're trying to decipher how to summon Lucifer with demon summoning abilities. Because it's never been done, so the only thing you have is, like, demon summon spells. So, like, you're trying to summon, technically, an angel with demon spells.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see it that way. But angel spells will be outside of their realm of knowledge and probably understanding. The fact of the matter was, with him for the spells, he could decipher them and read them and see what was wrong with them or whatever, just off of, like, looking at them, to come up with a more efficient and prosperous way of doing the spell. So, I mean, I guess yeah, but I mean, they don't think of him as an angel though, so that's probably why they didn't think of it like that.
Well, I mean, I get that, you know, that's not what people think of him as, but at the end of the day, he technically is a fallen angel, so
Oh no, I mean I get it because they don't when on like when we watch Supernatural, they don't summon him using demon circles and stuff.
Right.
So I get that. I totally get what you're saying. What I'm saying on their end is like witches as part of this coven and praising or whatever. I don't think they thought of it as him being an angel. Like he was their king demon, their Lord Lucifer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I don't. I also they like more or less portray him in the fashion of what I call Baphomet with the goat head.
yeah, they keep using the goat head.
So like that's what I when you say the difference between Baphomet and Satan and Lucifer, I think Baphomet's a demon. He has a goat head and a human body with wings. When you say Satan, I think the little thing that we all knew as kids, horns and freaking tail with the pitchfork. But when you say Lucifer, I think magnificent wings, and he's still a freaking angel, but God threw him away.
I mean, it could be like the show Lucifer. He has his devil face.
I mean, he could. But I mean, again, that's like the difference in like of what I imagine. So like, I understand I'm nitpicking a little on the portrayal, but it is what it is, and it's like I in my mind I question. Okay, well, he used a shape shifting demon to kind of trick everybody into thinking.
Hey man, that was smart, dog.
Nah, it was ingenious. It's perfect way around it. But like he used the shape shifting demon to trick everybody into thinking he had summoned Lucifer. So my question is like, just like how I have those three different images of what we call the devil, would they have known the difference if like she showed up and was like an angel?
At that point, I don't think anybody ever seen him. So the way they make it sound is like nobody ever really sees him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But also though, like when they show him and he shows up, he doesn't look like how she portrayed him. She portrayed him as this goat head, but like this suave debonair dude. Like he had a tuxedo and he was jazzy or whatever. Like I guess I don't know. Like he's supposed to got jazzy because he was coming to see his people, but when he shows up in the middle of the woods when they're doing the baptism ceremony for Sabrina, he ain't looking like that. You know what I'm saying? He got the goat legs and the goat head. There ain't no suit, no tux, no cane, none of that. Big Daddy Cool pimp stuff. And that also goes for when Salem saw him too. He looked the same way.
Yeah. I mean, so that's the difference. Like, because I don't think so. At that point, I don't. I would agree. I don't think anyone had seen him other than like select people. So they didn't know. They were just assuming that it was a goat head with like a human body. So they assumed that they had the image of Baphomet in their head that that's what he looked like. Maybe through rumor and through the grapevine that's what got passed down is that that's what he looked like. But I mean, we all know like this same person is supposed to be a fallen angel. So,
all right. So now we're here, right? You're at the end of both series. We pretty much talked most of the differences throughout the series and the comics. I mean, there's actually a lot more stark differences for the movie for the show than the comics, but that's because you got 8 comics and like 20 episodes of Sabrina.
right.
So like you got a lot more material as far as the show goes to go against what you have for the comics. My question is, since it looks like they're gonna go back to kind of diving into about her father, do you think you'll get some of that information, like that backstory that we had in the comic books, or do you think they're gonna go a completely different route?
What in the comic?
Nah, in the
In the
show.
show?
Yeah. So obviously there's gonna be a third season. Like obviously, there's gonna be a third season.
I don't know. Because, like, they've assumed, they've portrayed her parents to just be dead. So
They did, but they also towards the end they portrayed that her father betrayed her mother, and that she's actually the twin child of Satan. And the mother was just a vessel.
so she's the daughter of Satan?
Yes.
Oh. So that's where that devil form came from?
What?
The
The
weird...
weird, I would assume.
Okay, I was wondering. Maybe I probably missed that in the
They
show.
show like her having some flashbacks, and then there's like her, and then there's like a baby that looks just like with the goat head and whatever. But they were like in the same.
Uterus?
Nah, they were in the same.
Bassinet?
Yeah. So it was like they were born together, and they talk about like, oh, her being the vessel or whatever, da, da, da. And the whole point of all the stuff that she did with Lilith was to awaken her to be the next bride of Satan or whatever the hell she was supposed to be, right?
Oh.
So she was supposed to be raising her powers and stuff.
So funny how that incest went full circle.
Right. So, but they haven't said flat out that she's the daughter of Satan. They kind of hung it out there like this is a possibility as to the reason why she is the way that she is.
Right.
And then they left it on some Archie, let's go find out what about this stuff at the end of the last episode. So they're supposed to be investigating more stuff, more into it, because they were like, well, what about this picture of Sabrina? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, so now they're supposed to be investigating into why this prophecy was on the wall about her and who she's really supposed to be and blah, blah, blah.
Right. One of the letdowns that I did want to mention was I'm a little sad they didn't include the Weird Sisters.
In the comics?
Yeah. I was actually curious how they would portray them in comic form.
Well, again, I think that, that's part of the substitute for not being able to have, the other witches from Riverdale.
Right. And, I mean...
and the whole school. I mean, most of the
Right,
school
like-
stuff was completely...
The entire school stuff is, like, completely pulled out of thin air. Which, I mean... Not to talk bad, but, like, that was, in my opinion, creative. Like, you don't think about it, but, like... We're in the 21st century, or...
I don't damn know. Don't ask
I mean...
me.
It's more modern. They're at least in like the 1900s sometime. If not for anything, they are around. Witches have been around long enough to.
In the comic, they're in the
establish-
1960s.
Right.
And I think they're supposed to be close to that in the show. I'm not sure if it's the 60s in the show, but it's supposed to be close to it. Which is another one of those snags to where we'll probably never see a crossover with Archie. I mean, with Riverdale, because Riverdale's in current time.
No, it's not.
It's not in the 60s.
It's not in current. They don't have cell phones.
They have laptops.
Shit, you're right. But like, look at the cars they drive too.
People drive old school cars now.
Fair enough. Riverdale has that weird.
It's
time
at
effect.
least late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
At the very least.
Riverdale has that weird time thing going on.
But it's most
where I couldn't
certainly.
figure out if they were like current time or like old time.
Yeah, so sometimes I think they're supposed to be like an older time, and then they do something like Jughead will whip out a laptop and basically Google some shit, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, because he sits at Pop's Diner and typing on his laptop.
Yep.
I always forget about that.
So it's like, when are they? Are they in the 90s? Are they in the 2000s?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Like,
but either way, they're further out than Sabrina. Unless they do some kind of a time warp thing with Sabrina. You might get like
with Sabrina, they haven't like completely disclosed what time frame it is. They can still like make it closer to present, or maybe they could just like continue this whole time paradox where we don't know what time frame they're in. They just have certain things that they want from technology and certain things that they don't, like cell phones.
Yeah, I haven't seen them use a cell phone or anything like that in
Either of
Sabrina.
them.
Nah, they use cell phones in
Do they?
yeah.
I know they. If they do, they try and like limit it.
Matter of fact, remember when Betty like blackmailed the dude into admitting?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they recorded that on a cell phone.
Yeah. Holy crap.
So I think Archie is. I think Riverdale is supposed to be
like,
current.
Supposed to be current time, I guess. It's so weird because it's
But
like
a lot of the stuff seems really like the whole gang vibe of it seems really 80s or 70s or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't seem like current gang. But then like there's the whole drug aspect of it, and I mean,
that's
and
very,
then they really
current issue.
And then they really mess you up when they bring in the Dungeons and Dragons thing. The was it ghouls and
gargoyles and something. Gargoyles and gangbangs. I don't know. Don't quote me.
And don't at me.
But like, it's weird because like, you can still have that crossover. The problem is that like CW probably won't give up the rights, but with CW being like free to stream, I don't know how that's gonna work out. So, like, we could see a crossover, or we could probably not see a crossover. It's probably, like, a 99.9% chance we won't see that crossover.
I mean, they could work out, like, a 2-episode deal or 3-episode deal or something like that.
I don't know, because who knows? Freaking, again, it could be like that weird thing where CW worked something out, like when they got Supergirl.
The only thing that'll make it difficult is that Sabrina airs all at one time on Netflix, and Riverdale is a weekly air. So
that would be one of those things which I don't know because Netflix and CW haven't been seeing eye to eye. Remember? So, like, well, no. I take that back. I recant that last statement. It's possible because Riverdale, not just Riverdale, but CW shows hit Netflix a week after they air. After they finish.
Right, but...
So, it's possible, but we would be pushing Sabrina back like a full year.
It still doesn't work out.
Wow.
Unless this crossover happens at the end of the season, it doesn't work out. Or the episode in Archie in Riverdale would have to be like the first episode of the crossover, and then you would have to start Sabrina with the crossover for it to make sense. Because if it falls in the middle of Riverdale, then you're like, okay, why do we have this random ass Sabrina crossover and we don't know the outside bits of it? And then when Sabrina drops, you get the other bit of it in the middle of the Sabrina season or whatever.
Yeah,
you know
I see what you're saying. You could start the crossover somewhere in Riverdale or somewhere in Sabrina. And then as long as, like, well, no, you can't do that with Sabrina because you have people that'll binge watch it the same day. But you could definitely start it anytime you want in Riverdale as long as Sabrina's, like, airing, like, the next week. But I see what you're saying. It gets hectic in there.
Right, like the crossovers work for the Arrowverse because they happen in succession. Right. It happens at the same part of the season for each series, so it works out that way. But if they'd had the first episode of the crossover, like the second episode of Supergirl, and everybody else ain't crossovering until like 12 episodes later. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think it's hectic. I mean, it's one of those things where, like I said, it's a 99.9% chance we probably won't get it. So, we're theorizing, but don't get your hopes up.
Late ass tippers.
What?
Oh, my bad. I just got a notification from Uber that somebody tipped me. and I ain't gave a ride since Saturday.
You can go back and tip people?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Shows how much I take Uber.
Be kind. Tip your Uber drivers.
Um,
Don't be weaknesses.
I'll think about it.
If you don't know, the Uber driver does not get the full total of your fare. So don't think that they're getting paid.
I'll get like gas money.
Bailey.
I'm so glad you can't rate riders.
Yeah, we can.
Oh. I'm so glad I don't really take Uber. Because y'all would hate me.
We most definitely can.
One of the other things I wanted to touch on was like, you don't see the decaying flesh under like whatever glamour spell they got going on, which I think is interesting. It's like they're supposed to be hundreds of years old, so yeah, their natural body is rotting, or at least like
I think that's raggedy too.
what?
I'm supposed to be living forever, but yet my body rots. Like that seems like some bull.
Yeah,
Like,
I think it's BS. I think the comic kind of like takes that into another field of how do you explain this, because like eventually you rot to nothing. So like, but like they're supposed to be almost mortal. So
I mean, they even explained to Sabrina that with her mortal blood, she'll still age way younger than everybody else that she hangs out with. So her mortal blood will have her age faster than a regular witch would, but apparently a whole hell of a lot slower than a regular mortal still though. So, but yeah, they cover that up. Also, I thought it was wild. Like, it's wild to me. It was wild seeing Hilda be so savage.
yeah, she's supposed to be the nice one.
Yeah, I was like, bro, Hilda is a total savage. And then what they did to Edward, like, I was like, oh, so
Yeah,
y'all gangster. Y'all ran up on y'all brother like, what's popping?
which again, like it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, well they could have did that in the show.
And then though, like, the way Madam Satan explains it was like that it would have took like a horde of powerful witches to do that. Like that Edward was that powerful of a witch that it would take a gaggle of powerful witches to lock him away in a tree. Not two. So what does that tell you about how powerful they are? Like, you know
I
what
mean,
I'm
it
saying?
also speaks volumes to the Spellman bloodline, though, because it's like, okay, well, two of them locked away supposedly one of the most powerful wizards known. So that just like, okay, well, two of the Spellmans took out another Spellman. So you just need to outnumber each other if you're a Spellman.
It takes an extra spellman to knock out a spellman.
Yeah, pretty much. Because you think about it, it's like they would have both had to have been at least more than half of his power level to have taken him out.
Yeah.
And that's just assuming you do the math and their total just outweighs his. That's not assuming that they're both not on his level.
Right.
That's just at minimum. And it's crazy. But again, if you've liked this discussion, I'm gonna highly recommend this one because I'm probably gonna continue reading this one. I know there's a long list of continued readings that I got going on since we started this podcast, but definitely continue reading this one, in my opinion.
I mean, you can put it on a pool. I probably won't put it on my pool. But it keeps hitting like Comicsology Unlimited at a certain point. That's pretty much how I read all of it, was Comicsology Unlimited, except for like I think the last one wasn't on it or something like that. So, but I mean, it's cool. I probably won't add it to a pool. No, I know I won't add it to a pool. But I will read it. And it's one of those like, it was a good, solid, straight through read. So it's one of those I probably enjoy more as volumes, like as the volumes drop instead of
No, I agreed.
reading
Because,
it
like, I
weekly.
definitely got to, like, issue number 8 at the end and was like, so how long does this waiting take?
Yeah, that's kind of what happens.
And, again, that's one of the characteristics that I have myself, is that I prefer binge reading. But, you know, it is what it is. And hopefully we'll get some issues dropping here rapidly, please, so I can binge read this some more. But thanks for tuning in. Yeah, we're at 55 minutes. And do you have any closing remarks, closing thoughts?
I'm just looking forward to see what's gonna happen. Like I said, I know season 3 of Sabrina is gonna be coming. That's definitely gonna be cool to see if they're gonna continue with this like overpoweredness that she has. Like right now, Shawty can just like stop the weather and whatever. Like she's wild, like wild, ridiculous right now. So I'm waiting to see how they're gonna play that out. And as far as the comic books go, like I'm wondering, are they gonna, now that you've had so much story created from the show, are the comic books going to start taking some lead from the show, or is it going to continue down its own path that it already has? So that's definitely one of the things I'm trying to say. Like, is it going to continue
Well,
to
they
branch off and be its own thing, or is it going to do like that freaking Stranger Things comic book that I had, which was just their concept of what would have been in between the episodes? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm just gonna put it out like this: it would be really hard for them to diverge back to where the show is.
well, I'm not saying to diverge all the way back to what the show is. Excuse me. I mean, I know they've already expressed that like Sabrina's supposed to be like one of the most powerful witches ever. One of the reason why the devil sent Salem on the path to watch Sabrina, he told him this back during the witch trials that hey, I need you to stick around for a few hundred years because there's gonna be this witch come around named Sabrina. You're gonna be
Well,
her familiar.
he didn't even give him her name. He just told her it's gonna be more of a witch, but less of a witch.
And you're gonna have to have her back. I need you watching her.
Do everything you can. Take care of her.
Right. So, I mean, is that coming that she's going to be some kind of antichrist? You know what I'm saying? Is she supposed to be that kind of powerful? Are they going to go that route like they did with the show? Because essentially she's the antichrist. That's kind of essentially how they've done it in the show. Like she's done the reverse of, actually, excuse me. No, not even the reverse. She has done the miracles, the 7 miracles. Everything that she did has been like the same miracles that Jesus did.
Yeah. Just in a kind of twisted way.
Right. So, are they going to continue this Sabrina Antichrist path? Are the comic books going to pick up on this Sabrina Antichrist path? Are they going to explain why that Edward was told that his daughter had to be half mortal in order to ascend the name? The Spellmans will be known for more than just this, this, and this if you do this. What is the true intent? What was the true intentions of having that? You know what I'm saying? Was it just because she'd be super powerful than everybody else, or was there something more to it?
Who knows? Find out next
Is Edward
time.
gonna mess up his daggone sisters for trapping him inside of a tree?
Is he gonna sleep with Sabrina? Find out next time.
Dear God, I hope not.
Please no. Oh, that'd be terrible. But thank you for listening. Tune in next week for another exciting episode of Nerds Day Out. This is your host, Jaquack, and my co-host,
Hollywood. Make sure you go give us a follow on Twitter at NDO for Life. I know it hasn't been very active. I'm getting my life together. Just give us a follow anyway. Appreciate it.
Yeah, give us a follow on Twitter. As always, join the Facebook group. If you have Discord and you're mobile with your Discord, feel free to join me on there. Nobody. It's very lonely on there, guys. Um, but feel free, join us on whatever social media we have listed. I think I'm still posting those links down below. Pretty sure those are permanent links. But feel free, join us on social media. Like I said, give this video a thumbs up. It really helps motivation. Um, hit that subscribe button, and as always, stay nerdy.